Today we're going to be checking out 3 true disturbing Uber horror stories. All right, man, let's see what's cracking. Sometimes
it was a
Ubers
winter
be
evening,
scary.
and I got off from work late.
All right.
Generally, I take my car, but that particular day, everything was against me.
Okay.
Before leaving for work, I got a flat tire, so I took the bus.
All right.
The entire day was full of pressure, so I forgot to tell my roommate to pick me up that night. I live in a not-so-ideal neighborhood, so whenever I work late night, my roommate Kayla comes to pick me up.
It's perfect.
She's a freelance graphic designer, so never hesitates to help me in an emergency.
And that's a good friend.
FYI, I do the same for her, too. When I came out of the office, the roads were starting to get empty, and I realized I wouldn't be getting any taxis now, so my only way out was Uber.
Listen,
I've
taken a lot of Ubers in my day. There's only been a couple times where I've ran into a really weird Uber driver. And trust me, it was weird,
down
bro.
at the bus stop waiting for my car to arrive.
All right.
The driver's name was Maurice, and he had a
just looks like a
4.8
creep.
star rating, which
Looks like a
felt
creep.
pretty assuring at that moment. The weather was getting extremely cold, and all I wanted was to go home and have hot chocolate sitting
Where
near
the hell's
fireplace.
Maurice at, bro?
Kayla called me and asked when I would reach home. She wanted to come and pick me up, but it would have taken an hour, so I told her not to bother.
I would listen. I
Even
would
though
have
there
been
was
waiting
nothing
outside
to
for an
worry
hour.
about, she told me to share the ride with her just in case.
Okay.
After waiting for 5 minutes, I saw
Maurice.
bright headlights coming in my direction.
Yo, Maurice.
I am a safety girl, so before getting into the car, I checked the number plate and made sure it was my ride. After getting into the car,
Bro, he
I
looks
shared
weird.
my location with Kayla, and the driver started the engine. Honestly, the man Maurice was a
Shouldn't the engine have already been started? Did he, like, turn the car off when he pulled up and then turned it back on? I mean, I'm not understanding.
Very quiet
I'm not
guy,
understanding.
which I liked. He was driving safely, which calmed me down.
Which is good.
I thought, at least I'll get home safe. Only if I knew my fate was laughing at me. After driving for 15 minutes straight, we came onto a dusty road. The neighborhood I live in
Interesting.
is located on the outskirts, which is why I always prefer taking my car wherever I go.
Yeah, this is kind of weird.
There were
in the middle
grass
of the
fields
woods
on
and
both
stuff.
sides of the road.
Nah,
I
this is
asked
weird.
Maurice if I could light a cigarette, and he politely agreed.
Hell
I
no, you
rolled
ain't
down my
smoking in my
window
car.
and clicked the lighter
What's
when a
wrong with you?
spine-chilling scream stopped my heartbeat. Maurice yelled in a terrifying voice.
What was that?
Somebody in the trunk, bro.
I don't know.
She's in the
Both
trunk.
of us were white like a sheet. Maurice pressed hard on the accelerator, and creating a squeaky sound, the car took up speed.
Bro.
We might have gone a few meters when the scream took place again,
She's in the trunk.
followed by a woman's voice. Help!
I'm in the trunk.
Please help me! Maurice still didn't stop,
In
but
the
I said,
trunk,
we
bro.
have to stop. Didn't you hear? She needs help.
No, ma'am. We shouldn't be stopping here. I have a bad feeling about all this.
Yeah, because you
What
got
are
someone
you
in the
saying?
trunk,
A
bro.
woman is in trouble.
No, ma'am. I'm not stopping here.
Before we could argue more about
Bro,
this,
she's
the
in the
Uber
trunk.
started to make pretty weird noises, and after shaking 2 or 3 times, the engine stopped. Now, I started to feel bad about this entire situation.
'Cause she's
I don't
in
know
the
why,
trunk,
something
bro.
at the back of my head kept telling me Maurice was right. We were so shocked by everything going on at that moment that neither of us got out of the car for a while.
Bro, if she's in the
Maurice
trunk,
tried
I'm
to
gonna
start the
freak.
engine once again, but there was no luck.
I told you there was something bad here. Sit here. I'll check the engine.
With trembling hands,
Nope.
Maurice opened the car door and got out. I saw him grabbing the cross he was wearing around his neck and muttering prayers. We were both scared, but it seemed like
I'm
Maurice
scared.
was suspecting there was something paranormal involved in this matter. I, on the other hand, was freaking out, thinking there is indeed a woman inside those grass fields who needs
Nah,
our
she's
help.
in the trunk,
But
bro.
Maurice's behavior was scaring me too, so I decided it would be better if I just called the cops. As I took out my phone
No
to dial
service.
911, I saw there was no signal.
Gotta get that
I was going
5G,
to tell
bro.
Maurice to do the
Gotta
same
get that
when I
young
heard a
5G.
rustling sound in those grass fields. I followed
Damn,
the
there's someone's
sound,
pulling
and the
up.
vast grass field just stood in front of my eyes, right under the night sky. There was no one, just the unending horizon.
No, thank you.
The sounds of crickets, followed by howling wind, spooked me a bit. Suddenly, a chunk of grass started rustling like crazy, and soon I could see something rushing
Bro,
at
I'm
the
scared.
car. Whatever
I'm
was
scared.
hiding in that grass field was running at us at full speed, and
my
I
God, it's
screamed,
Jeepers Creepers.
"Maurice, get in the car!" He turned in the same direction as that running sound,
He's
but
about to get
before he
eaten,
could take
bro.
a single step, something came out from that bushy
What the
field and
hell?
lunged on Maurice, making him scream for his life, and then everything went quiet. The car bonnet was obstructing my view, but I was sure whatever
what is
jumped on
going
Maurice
on?
was now sitting in front of the car. After a moment of silence, I heard bones snapping.
Poor
There was
Maurice,
also
bro.
another
R.I.P. the
sound
goat,
that seemed
bro.
like flesh tearing. Paralyzed with fear,
She gets
I
out of the car.
slowly came out of the car and
Makes
tried
sense.
to peek. I thought it must be a wild
She's eating
animal,
him, right?
but what I saw scarred me for life.
She's eating
A
him.
woman with long black hair was sitting over Maurice and digging up his entrails from his cut-open stomach.
Holy
His
shit.
eyes were bulging out in fear, which tells me he died a painful death. A gasp
Oh
of
my
breath
God.
came out of me as I choked in fear, and the woman turned her face toward me.
Stupid.
I have never seen such a horrifying face. There was no skin, making the flesh underneath poke out like a nightmare.
Bro, I don't know what you do at that
Eyes were
point.
bloodshot like a demon from hell. The
She
woman
probably is.
chuckled at me and stood up. I wanted to run away, but my legs
Yeah,
didn't
you're
move
paralyzed,
a bit.
bro.
Suddenly, she chuckled like a possessed person and said, "Help me!" She ran into the grass at full speed. I fainted
weird,
on the
bro.
ground after witnessing such a grotesque scene.
Don't tell me someone
Seeing
found
me
you.
not return home and my live location stuck near the grass field area, Kayla called 911 and
Okay.
came for my rescue.
Makes sense.
The
Good
cops
friend,
found
bro.
me unconscious
On
and
God,
Maurice
good
dead.
friend. I gotta get some
But
water.
the story doesn't
That is a
end
good
here.
friend, bro.
The next day, when I woke up in the hospital and told the cops about this woman, they all kept staring at me in disbelief. Without wondering about who that woman could be, the cops gave me bizarre news that swept the ground beneath my feet.
He's alive.
After rescuing me and taking Maurice's body from the scene,
Okay.
they were going through the car and found something unthinkable in
What?
his trunk. There was a
Body.
dead body of a woman in the trunk of his Uber.
What did I say? I said that there was a dead lady in his trunk. I told you it was her. I told you.
She had long black hair,
And her face was burned off.
was cut off. They
There you go.
searched his house and found out this woman was his wife, whom he murdered before coming to pick me
Wow.
up. Not
That's
knowing what to
dedication to
do,
work,
he
bro.
carried the body with him, thinking he would dump it on the way.
That's dedication
The
to
cops
work.
ruled this case out as an attack made by some wild animal, but I know what I saw that night. Now, when I think about this, I feel like the reason Maurice didn't want to follow that woman's voice was that he recognized it
Yeah,
in the
he got
first place.
scared.
He knew it was his dead wife screaming for help.
Yep.
And that's why he started praying to God, expecting something paranormal to take place.
Yep.
People who believe in spirits say that those who die with unfulfilled wishes often come back. So was it Maurice's dead wife who came back for revenge?
Maurice, bro.
Or was it something else that still lurks in that bushy grass field?
Bro, listen, Maurice should have been more careful, man. He did not play the strats right. That was just not good play by Maurice. On top of that, I had this one Uber driver real quickly, though. I had this one Uber driver, bro, legitimately. He was driving me to the airport, and he's telling me about how he has a girlfriend or had a girlfriend and a wife at the same time, and then they found out about each other. That's the last Uber I took. The dude was driving all over the place. It was just not great. But that's my last Uber driver experience, and it was weird. Really weird. All right, fam. Story number 2. Let's see what's going on.
I got a really shitty SUV from my uncle on my 21st birthday.
At least it's a car.
I hated it because it was huge and bulky. To me,
Been told.
it looked like a family car. And I told myself that it wasn't really what a 21-year-old should be driving.
Anything's good,
So
bro.
I decided to use it as an Uber driver to make some money to get a
Okay.
flashy sports car.
Smart.
So I cleaned it up, made sure it was in good condition, and once everything was checked out, I began driving as an Uber XL driver.
There you go, man.
As being an SUV, I could use the car to carry more passengers.
And I think you make more
and
money.
make more money.
There you go. Dude,
I
I'm
worked my
literally
butt
psychic.
off all through the summer, and after a while, I was finally able to get all the money I wanted. I just needed 2 more rides to reach my goal.
There you go, man.
It was on a Sunday, on a sunny afternoon, when I got a ride request to carry 5 people. I quickly accepted, and on my way to pick up the first person, I looked at the destination and
close.
saw that they were all going to the outskirts of the city,
Okay.
which was by the forest path.
That's lit.
It was weird as I began to wonder what 5 people were going to be doing all the way out there surrounded by
Hike?
nothing but the forest.
Maybe.
But the thought of getting paid and cruising in a new car removed all my curiosity,
As it
so I
should.
drove on with a smile on my face. I remember rolling up to pick up the first passenger. She was an elderly woman who wore a dark robe with short sleeves.
Okay.
She was also putting on dark makeup on her face, so it gave her a gothic look. I noticed she had a belated look on her
Or
face,
it's
as
a
if
sacrifice.
she was going to see something beautiful.
Uh-oh.
I then asked her, "Did you order the Uber?" She said nothing as she just nodded her head in response. She looked pretty elderly, so I got out of the
door
car
for
to
her.
open the door
Very
for
nice
her.
guy.
As she walked in, I noticed that there were numerous scars on her hands and arms, but I didn't say anything about it. When she had settled in, I got back
Bro,
into
this
my
isn't
car
like a giant
and continued the
sacrifice
journey.
thing.
The car was weirdly quiet as the elderly woman didn't say a single word on the way
I
to
could just
pick
tell
the
by
next
the weirdness
passenger.
going on, bro.
The second passenger was a woman in her 20s.
Same thing.
And she too donned a similar black robe to the one the old woman was
It's like
wearing.
a sacrifice or something.
She also had the dark makeup, gothic look, with similar scarring on her hands and arms. When she got into the car, she looked at the elderly woman and said,
Greetings, follower.
and with that, nothing but silence
Greetings, follower. Bro,
followed.
this is
On
not
the way to
good.
pick up the third
This is
passenger,
not gonna
the
end
silence
well.
in the car was making me feel anxious.
This is not going to
My
end
mind
well.
began going to numerous places as I wondered why they were dressed like that
You know why,
and
bro.
what were they going to do.
They're going to sacrifice
So
you.
I asked,
You're it,
are you
brother.
guys cosplayers?
Oh, yeah.
Nothing but silence answered me as they completely ignored my question.
Nice.
As
Good
I picked
people.
up the remaining 3 passengers,
They all were the
I
same.
began to get more anxious as things were getting weirder.
Mm-hmm.
The third passenger was a middle-aged man with the same robe and makeup as the females. The fourth was a teenage boy who also sported the same attire
Interesting.
and makeup, and the fifth was a little girl who looked like she was 14.
Okay.
She too, like the rest of them, was wearing the exact same thing.
Dude, they're going to like some
It was
sacrifice
already
or
evening
something.
by the time I picked them all up. I thought about canceling the ride as something didn't feel
You have them
right,
all
but
in the car.
I
Can you
really
do
wanted
that?
the money.
Bro, can you even do that, though? Can you cancel? Oh, I muted it. Can you cancel a ride even if they're in the car? Like what?
So I
never
carried
even heard of
on
that
with the
before.
trip. We drove for a while and I noticed that none of them used their phones.
None
which
of
was
them talked.
odd for people in the 21st century. They also didn't speak much.
That's what I'm
And
saying.
when they did, they spoke weirdly.
Hello,
It began to
follower.
get pretty late as I drove deeper into the forest.
Greetings.
So I asked,
Like the green guys
are
from
you
Toy
guys
Story.
sure it's this way?
Greetings.
That's when the elderly
Our
woman touched
leader.
my shoulder and said in a really soft voice,
Take us to the path that's green,
Told
to
ya.
one who needs to be seen.
Told you.
shocked by
It's a
her
giant
weird
sacrifice
response.
or something.
I watched as they all began to chant the weird mantra continuously.
Take us to the path that's
Nope.
green, to
Dude.
one who needs to be seen.
Bro, I'm getting out of the car. You could have the car. I'm getting out. There's no way I'm sitting in that car if that's going on with a chant like
As
that.
they repeatedly chanted their weird
No.
poem in unison, I began to feel suffocated
Yeah.
as their odd behavior was creeping me out.
I'm freaked out right
After
now.
a while, I couldn't take it anymore as I began to freak out. So I hastily pulled over and stopped the ride.
It's like, get out of my car.
They all stopped reciting the mantra, and they began to stare at me. I then told them, I'm not sure I want to continue this ride. You guys are making me uncomfortable with that weird poem you're reciting. The little girl beside me then said,
Move, child, and I will give you huge worldly earnings.
Stunned, I looked
It's
at
like
her
they're
with a
playing World of
perplexed
Warcraft
look
or
on my
something,
face
bro.
as the girl who I was sure was 14 or 15 called me child like she was 60. I then replied her with, You mean a tip? She then proceeded to bring out $600.
I'm
And once
keep
I saw
driving.
the money, it's
I'm
as
keep
if my mind
driving.
went blank as I knew that the tip would
I know I was just talking all that shit. Bro, if someone offers me the 600 beans to keep driving,
be enough to complete
I'm
my
already on the
savings
gas,
without
bro.
having to go
You're
on
going to tell
another
me to
ride.
slow down. That's how fast
So
I'm
against
going.
better judgment, I
No
accepted.
way, bro.
We reached the destination on the map, and they told me to go a bit further off the road and into the forest as their true destination wasn't on the map. I
Interesting.
knew something was really shady about it, but
It's a
I really wanted
sacrifice.
the $600, so I agreed. I drove off the road and into the forest. It was pretty dark when we reached our destination.
Oh, hell no. There's
There was
like
a clearing in
900
the forest,
people there.
and in the middle, numerous people donning the same dark
It's
robes
all-
were gathered.
It's a giant sacrifice.
They
We're
all
about to
carried
sacrifice
torches,
you.
and they surrounded a
You're
huge mound
it.
of wood. There was something at the top of it that I couldn't see.
Oh, hell no.
As I took in the
some
scene,
demonic
I
shit, bro.
realized I had come to a cult gathering.
Yep.
They paid me and began
There
to
you
get
go.
out.
600
When
beans
they had all
reverse,
left,
gone.
I immediately started to back up
Mm-hmm.
when I slipped my tires. The door was forcefully opened, and a huge man looked at me and said, Join us. I immediately replied
No.
him with, I really don't want to join any clubs. I just want to go home. But before I could say anything else, I was forcefully pulled out
Man's
of my
got
car.
snatched.
The huge man began to pull me towards the middle of the gathering as
Uh-oh.
they encircled me. I began to scream and fight back when another huge man came to subdue me. I was then gagged and taken to the foot of the wooden mound.
Wow.
Now that I was closer, I could see what was on top, as it was the skull of a ram. But what was horrifying about the animal's skull was that instead of 2 eye sockets, it only had one, which meant that the animal was alive and it only had one huge eye in the middle of its head.
Yep.
I started to scream as my mind couldn't comprehend the sight of the morbid skull. The head of the cult then walked up to me and said, "Remove that scornful look on your face, as you have been chosen for this great day. You have been presented unto the one who sees all, a great honor to behold. You will be eaten by his four-legged children, and you will be his glorious sacrifice."
Mans is not only getting sacrificed, he's also being eaten. That's even worse.
Cheers erupted all around me as I continued to
I guess
scream.
it's like food, but
a bucket was then
still,
brought out,
bro, I'm
and
good.
each of them took out a knife. One by one, they began to slightly slit their arms and hands, and they took turns spilling blood into the bucket.
This is ridiculous.
They all did this till the bucket was full to
Were they
the
going to
brim.
marinate you in that?
The leader then carried the bucket
Jesus.
and emptied it on my head. I screamed, but they held me down. I watched the two huge men come towards me with huge sticks, and they began to continuously strike my legs. The pain was unbearable as I felt and heard my legs break. They stopped when they were sure I couldn't move, and one by one, I watched as they all left me there in the darkness. I knew it was only a matter of time before the blood that was poured on me attracted the dangerous forest animals. I could already hear the howling of wolves in the distance.
You better be careful,
I didn't want to die, so I began to frantically look around, and out of the corner of my eye, I could see the silhouette of my SUV.
Man, is that long last
I noticed
stand,
the
bro.
door I was pulled out of was still open. I never in a million years thought that seeing the car I thought was ugly would give me so much hope. I told myself it wasn't that far, so I began to crawl
really
towards
not.
it. Till today, I don't know how I did it, but I mustered all the strength I could, and I started to crawl.
Wow.
As I crawled on the
Good
floor,
for him.
I felt a whole world of pain. I felt the stones dig into my belly. I felt the ants and mosquitoes feast on my flesh, but I didn't give up.
It's better than dying.
I eventually reached the SUV, and I pulled myself into...
How you going to drive with two broken legs? If you can answer me that solidly, I'll respect you.
The driver's
No
seat.
way.
I managed to stay the night in the safety of the SUV.
Oh, okay. I guess
and
they
in the
all
morning,
just dipped on
I was
him.
found by a hiker who immediately called 911.
This is weird.
I woke up in the hospital, surrounded by my family and the cops.
This is crazy.
The cops then told me I had a run-in called the Followers of the One Who Sees.
Okay.
They said the cult was over 100 years old,
Wow.
and I was lucky enough to be alive.
Bro, why would they
An
just leave him,
investigation
though?
was then opened to find the ones responsible.
Why would they just
When
leave
they
him,
were
though?
done with questioning me, the doctors then told me that my legs were broken, not
Nice.
shattered. So with time, I'd heal and walk
Sweet.
again.
Good for you, bro.
It's been 3 years since
Good
this
for
happened.
you.
I didn't
W
get the
Uber
flashy
driver.
car I wanted, as I kept the SUV that basically saved my life. I've been working through the trauma, but
As
till
you should.
today, I can never forget that day. And sometimes, when I close my eyes,
You see it.
I still see a one-eyed ram staring right at me.
No thank you, bro. Listen. Colt tried to grab man. Not only grab him, take him in, sacrifice him, and then eat him. And why would they leave him after they break his legs? I would have just got up that charcoal grill, put a little, you know what on there, put him right on there, put a little salt, pepper, you know what I'm saying, a little onion powder, a little garlic powder, call it a day, bro. Story number 3. Let's see what's cracking, man. The last one was
This
crazy.
is the story of Uber driver Jason Dalton.
Oh, this is like a
Who
real
was just
guy.
another man living a common life until he
'Cause
changed
there's his
forever.
mugshot.
Dalton
So-
was raised in Greenfield, Indiana,
Okay.
and went to middle and high school in nearby Charlottesville.
Okay.
Dalton married wife 5, and the couple had 2 children. Together, aged 10 and 15 at the time of this incident that you are about to know. Dalton was generally described as a nice guy and
Usually
a good family
always.
man.
Bro,
Though it was
usually, always, the most psychopathic people are always talked so highly about.
reported
It's crazy.
that he had been acting depressed. On 20th February 2016, Dalton began his day like everyone else.
Smoking a
It was
dart.
a Saturday, and
Yes,
no
sir.
one anticipated the upcoming storm in Jason's mind. While his wife of 20 years went out with their
Wow.
15-year-old son and their 10-year-old daughter,
20 years.
Dalton, 45, took their German Shepherd, Mia, for a walk, then ran errands for a couple of hours with a friend, Brian.
That's very nice.
Afterwards, he told Brian that he might take a nap, then go to work.
Solid.
The Daltons were doing fine, but he liked the idea of making some extra money.
Okay.
The plan was to take his family to Disney World.
Disney World's a great place,
So,
bro.
after the nap, Dalton came out of the house, got into his Uber, and started the shift of the day.
Okay.
He brought his dog, Mia, to work.
That's a little weird.
His first ride was a female college student who refused to get in the car because of the dog.
Yeah.
His
as I
ride
would.
with her couldn't be successful, so Dalton moved on with the next ride request,
I would have just not
which
taken my
came
dog.
from a man named Matt Mellon. But Matt was okay about it, even though the act of bringing your dog to an Uber shift
It's weird.
felt weird to him.
Very weird.
It was a beautiful Saturday afternoon, so he figured maybe they'd just been for a walk.
Could be.
Matt got in the front passenger seat, and Dalton started the ride. Mellon was headed to a friend's house to pick up his car birthday party the previous night.
Responsible.
He and Dalton chatted a little to begin with. Small talk, nothing unusual. They were driving by the road when Dalton's phone rang. His phone was connected with the car Bluetooth,
Wanda.
so Mellon could hear the call, but he didn't pay much attention. The caller was actually from his son, who was using his wife's phone.
Okay.
The little kid asked if his dad could pick up chicken dinner on his way home, and that's all they talked about.
Of course I
But
can.
as soon as Dalton hung up the call, his behavior changed all of a sudden. He hammered the gas pedal and started driving crazy. Whatever
you
the
either
real
really wants
trigger,
to drop you off
Dalton's behavior
or bring you home
became
so we
unhinged.
can eat you.
He sped into an oncoming traffic lane, blew through a stop sign, and violently swiped a Ford Taurus.
Oh my God.
But as he did so, he reacted as though nothing had happened.
No thanks.
Like his driving was in the riskiest way. There was a possibility he could crash or meet an accident any time, but his face was calm and cold.
Yeah, he don't care.
Terrified with his outrage and psychotic behavior, Matt started shouting and panicking.
As I would.
Dude, you hit that car! You just hit that car! I didn't hit anything. Now Mellon was out of his mind, seeing Dalton react as if nothing happened. He started pleading to him to stop the car, but Dalton sat like a statue.
Dude, that's crazy. Bro.
Dalton wouldn't stop. He shot through some more lights
More
and
red
repeatedly
lights.
swerved onto the wrong side of the road.
Holy shit.
In the back,
bro.
Mia got down on the floor and hid, trembling in fear.
As I would
And
too.
yet, the whole time, Dalton showed no outward signs happening. Please just
No thanks, bro.
let me out. Please just let me out. Mellon screamed again. Well, don't you need a ride to your friend's house?
Yeah, I did until I
Not
got in the
anymore.
car with you.
Let me out. Let me out. Realizing Dalton is not going to stop like this, Mellon noticed houses on the side of the road.
I would have crashed that joint.
An idea came to his mind.
Swerve.
He started indicating other houses, saying that's where he had to go. Finally, halfway down a quiet stretch of Iroquois Trail, Dalton slammed on the brakes and asked again where Mellon's friend lived.
Right here.
Taking advantage of that moment, Mellon jumped out of the car. A woman named Casey Black was having a cigarette with her husband outside their house on
Nice
the
little
corner
dark
of
break,
Iroquois
you know?
Trail,
little
enjoying
dark
their
break.
fine weather when she noticed a man sprawling out of an Uber and running towards them. Dalton sped up again and drove away from that location.
Wow.
Mellon and Casey both called 911, but the cops didn't express much interest as no physical harm was done to the passenger
it's still
or
low. It's
anyone
so
during
weird.
that incident.
So weird.
After Mellon escaped from his car, Jason Dalton sped home. When he arrived, he went inside and drank a glass of water,
Okay.
then went down to the basement
Oh,
and prepared his guns,
All right.
filling up the magazines.
Nice.
By the time he set back out into the world, he was carrying a loaded Glock 9mm semi-automatic pistol and was wearing a bulletproof vest under his jacket. Around the time when he headed back onto the Kalamazoo streets, Dalton also called his wife. He wanted to swap his damaged car with a Hummer they owned, but that was parked at his parents' keys. When her phone rang, she was in the parking lot of Sam's Club with her kids, loading
Interesting.
up the car.
Gotta get them
Their
groceries,
son
bro.
answered and relayed the message. Carol said she'd meet him at her parents' house. But Dalton didn't go straight there.
Oh no, where'd he go?
Instead, he accepted a new fare. He went to the location, waited for his rider, but somehow lost his way. He was driving by a parking lot where he saw a woman and stopped
Oh,
near her.
no.
In a rusty voice, he asked, "Are you Missy?" As soon as the woman replied no, Dalton turned his car around and started firing. He shot her repeatedly, and she fell on the ground, seriously injured.
That was the last thing I expected. I swear to you, that is the last thing I expected.
But
I
to
did not
survive
expect
this
that at
unexpected
all.
attack, she played dead until Dalton drove away.
Smart.
A neighbor found the injured woman and called 911.
Bro did a straight UE drive
After
by.
the first shooting, Dalton again got on the road driving like a madman.
Where did he go, though?
He then arrived at a Kia dealership in Kalamazoo, where another woman was standing with her father and son.
And he kills her.
They were shocked to see a car rushing nearby at full speed.
Oh my God, did he run him over?
And the driver coming out with a gun.
Oh, shit.
Before they could contemplate the situation, Dalton yelled at the woman's father and boyfriend. "What the hell are you looking at?"
Oh, hell no.
He didn't wait for their response and shot 16 times, fatally striking.
16? What kind of mag is... Man's got extended mag on that Glock 9. Literally extended mag.
Both males.
Damn,
Then
bro.
He got into his car and the woman screaming
Killed
in terror.
them, bro.
And the woman screaming in terror.
Of course, as
He
anyone
then
would.
went to another restaurant where he shot 4 people to death and injured 1 badly. These shootings took about 1 minute before Dalton fled the crime scene. After getting the 911 calls from the Kia dealership, the police announced a manhunt to track down this active shooter before he
As
killed
they
more.
should.
Dalton reportedly continued to accept Uber fares. Dalton picked up 4 people and drove them to their hotel.
That's insane.
During the ride, one passenger who had been hearing reports of the shooting spree jokingly asked Dalton, "Are you the shooter?"
Yep.
Dalton simply replied, "No."
Yes, I am. Yes, I am. That's insane. That's insane. Especially that they have, like, police footage and stuff.
3 weeks after the shootings, when the police released accounts of their 2 formal interviews with Jason Dalton during his first 24 hours in custody, everyone was shocked to hear his motive behind this mass
What
murder.
was it?
Dalton said, "The Uber app made me do it." He explained how, whenever he opened the app, the logo took a shape of a ram, a demonic figure of a satanic cult, and told him to kill people.
What?
Dalton tried
Bro.
to portray himself as insane and suffering from mental illness,
This guy's
but he was
whacked.
tested by a psychologist.
And he was fine.
The result was crystal clear.
Yeah, he's whacked,
It was
bro.
all his actions to save himself from the upcoming punishments.
Dude.
As his trials began,
Yeah, get outta
he
here,
tried
bro.
to make a scene in court during the trial, but the police dragged him out immediately.
As I would've.
2019. Dalton was sentenced to life in prison without the possibility of parole.
Damn, bro. You got a
Dalton
long
is
time
currently imprisoned in the Oaks Correctional Facility.
One thing, man, I know I make jokes all the time, but, you know, RIP to the people that did die. These are all 3 true stories. I think the second one was really insane, and the third one, the fact that there's actually police footage, I think is insane. But hopefully you guys did go enjoy today's video. If you did, please don't forget to smack a like on it. That'd be greatly appreciated. The support on the channel has been absolutely insane recently, so thank you guys so much for that. With all of that being said, guys, my name is Chris, and of course I will catch you guys in the next one.